Hey everybody, Mr. Fritz here. In this video, we're going to add a little bit more to our text-based fighting game. So what we've done so far is we have added a kind of simple back and forth between a player and an enemy, and I thought it'd be cool if we kind of added some more game-like elements to this. We're not just watching this printout of just here's what happened, but add a little bit more flavor to this. So let's get into the code. The first thing that I was thinking that we could do is if you were to actually play a game, you're not always guaranteed a hit with whatever attack you would make. So what we can start to do is we can actually start to add a player accuracy inside of the enemy and player setup. So right after we take care of the HP, let's add in the, or actually for the player, let's add in a player accuracy. And we'll set that equal to 70. And this basically is going to mean that we have a 70% chance of hitting when we attack the enemy. And then let's give the enemy accuracy. Let's make that enemy a little bit stronger than us. So we'll give them a 75% chance at hitting us. So right now, this doesn't really mean anything to the code. Like, it's just a number. It's just remembering a number. But we're going to use that number as kind of a basis for a random number generator when we calculate or determine the chance of the player or the enemy actually landing the attack. So I'll show you what I mean. So next, let's go into where the player's turn is, and we want to use that player accuracy to actually determine whether or not a player lands a hit. So what we'll do is we still want to say that the player has attacked, and then what we need to do is before we calculate the damage and decrease the enemy HP, let's first figure out if that player hits the enemy. So what we're going to do here is we're going to determine if the player has a successful attack. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to come up with a random number. And we're going to set that random number using random.randint. We're going to go from 1 to 100. And here's why. I have a little bit of a visual for what I'm thinking about for using that 70 as that accuracy value. I'm generating a random number between 1 and 100. So whatever that random number is going to fall somewhere on this circle. And what I want to do is if I'm saying that there's a 70% chance that that attack lands, that means that I want one of those numbers to be inside of this shaded area. So another way of saying that is like if I'm between 1 and 70 and including 70, then that represents 70% of that total outcome. Right? So all numbers from 71 to 99 would represent not landing an attack, and then all numbers from 1 to 70 would represent landing an attack. So what I'll do then is in my code, I'm going to take that random number, which is between 1 and 100, and what I want to say is that if random num is less than or equal to the player accuracy, in this case it's 70, so if it's between 1 and 70 inclusive, then I'm going to print, let's print player name lands a hit. And then what we're going to do is we're going to actually do the things that are right over here only if the player lands a hit. So because I want this to occur if I've hit the enemy, I'm going to highlight all of this text and tab it in. Now that is all part of this if statement. So maybe I'll just make a comment here. Well, I already have this comment, so that's fine. Now what I should do is if I were to run this, well actually I can run this. Let's say player and enemy, and then I would land a hit. That's good. Enemy attacks, we land a hit, lands a hit. I want to try to get to a point where yes, okay. So if the player does not actually land a hit, you'll see it's kind of dull. It just says player press enter for player's turn. Player attacks enemy, and then nothing. But we should do something to handle the outcome if I don't land that hit. So that will cause a need for an else statement. So else is compared to this if statement because it's on the same line. So basically, like if I hit the enemy, do all these things. Otherwise, I should say something that represents that I've not actually landed that attack. So let's just print something like print player name misses. All right, and with that, I have added a little bit of a chance element to this that's made it a little bit more interesting. So let's run this. What is your name? Player. Who is your enemy? Enemy. And look at that. If we miss, it just says that we missed, and that's a little bit more informative. So what we'll do is we'll actually add that same mechanic to the enemy. And what I would like you to do is I want you to try and do that yourself. So using the same type of structure of this if and else with a random number, using the random number generator and using the random enemy accuracy that we have set forth for us, see if you can make this also occur for the enemy turn as well. So there's some random chance whether or not the enemy lands a hit on the player. So give that a shot, and you can watch the next video when you're ready.